Welcome back to Hear Me Out. I'm E.
I'm D.
And today we're going to cover episode 8, season 5 of the Kardashians. This episode is called This Is My Most Important Job. So, guys, my preliminary thoughts. This is very keeping up with the Kardashian esque. So, I kind of enjoyed this episode. But that's all I'll say. We're going to read an article and, of course, give you our opinions about it.
So the article is from pinkvilla.com and it was written by Vinta J. So we're gonna just go ahead and jump right in as far as what's going on and how everything started off. So the episode kicks off with Kris Jenner getting ready for major surgery. Even though the surgery happened months ago in real life, in TV time, it's just around the corner. Kris brings her signature humor to the serious moment, joking with her doctor about multitasking during anesthesia. Kris Jenner also had an emotional moment as she prepared for surgery to have her ovaries removed. The episode began with Kris undergoing pre-op exam. Originally, she was just going to have her ovaries removed, but her doctor recommended removing her uterus too to prevent any future issues. Kris was emotional about this decision because it reminded her of when she wanted to start a family. So we'll go ahead and give some thoughts on this portion right here, and just basically what did we think of how that started off, especially considering we've discussed at length on multiple different recaps how we feel about them utilizing Kris Jenner's health issues for storylines.
Well, at first I was confused because the previous episode she was talking about that she had a cyst in her ovaries, or she called it a tumor, and everybody butchered her on social media. That she had a cyst. So this episode I thought that we were going to go into that, but we just get a whole I got a hysterectomy. So I was like, wow, I had to like process that as a fan. I can only imagine like you, but like give me a moment, And I thought social media was loud and wrong. Turns out I just needed to watch the episode. I think that's such a serious surgery for those who do follow us and follow our Potomac series and us criticizing and loving it at the same time. Somebody else who's had a hysterectomy is Giselle. So I think seeing that and the little bit that I know, it's a very major surgery, like an extremely, you know, uh, it could be dangerous too because Giselle had complications. So I wish that the Kardashians would dive in to these health things. Guys, just a disclaimer. We try to record this one other time. So I'm kind of trying to remember what I said before. We had technical difficulties. But I wish that the Kardashians could like talk a little more in depth about the issues. This is a woman centric kind of show. So it benefits us to know these things. As we all know or probably have experienced, we have to be our biggest advocates. When we go to like doctors and therapists and getting these annual checkups. So just knowing how she found out, what kinds of questions do we ask, what kind of doctors do we go to, like it could help a lot of us out. Same thing with Khloe. She really didn't talk much about her melanoma. I know that you mentioned in our conversation that she spoke about it on Snapchat, but I don't have a Snapchat, so I totally missed out. So that would have been a great topic of conversation. Somebody else who's had some ailments have been Kim with her psoriasis. Like, what is she doing with that? Courtney with her fetal surgery. She gave us a little more insight, but again, what do we ask these doctors? How did they find it? I think it's just beneficial to us to know. And of course, they're not medical professionals. All our bodies are different, but just knowing a little bit of information can spark a lot of thoughts in us.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think like what you said about this being a woman-centric show, it very much is that. For many seasons, and I want to say through this entire new iteration of the Kardashian show, it's been just the women. They're the ones in the promos, they're the ones in the intro, all of that. So the fact that like something so major is going on with Kris that is a woman's issue. It would have been nice to have had a little bit more information. Um, and I know that, like, obviously, we can't know everything, and we're not trying to like pry into private matters or anything like that, but there are ways to elaborate, I would think. And that was something that also was a little bit, frustrating when we watched Potomac and Giselle's situation. We didn't really get to hear too much um about what happened exactly and how things went down. So that was also something that, like, was frustrating, because they do have a platform. They do have these advantages, right? Like, they have access to the best healthcare professionals. They have access to like the best doctors. So, even just asking a few questions could potentially give, a good amount of information from these doctors that none of us would have access to.
Hmm.
So I think, like, that's one of the things that, like, I look at it and I'm just like, obviously I feel bad for her. It's a difficult thing to go through. And later on, I believe we'll discuss it, but later on when she just talks about it with her friends, you know, the friends' reactions was very matter of fact, like, okay, this is happening. Okay, you're gonna be fine, which is good. But, again, it's like, for the rest of us who are not at that point in life yet, um, we don't know what to expect, right? We don't know, like, oh, okay, yes, everything's going to be okay. I think there's a lot of women's health issues that are taboo that people don't talk about. Um, so it would be nice to know a little bit more. It'd be nice to have like a better idea of like what's really going on, or, how all of this even works. Because some people probably don't even know what a hysterectomy is. Some people probably don't even know how you can get like a cyst or a tumor or whatever on your ovaries. There's a lot of things that we
Hmm.
don't really hear about, we don't really talk about. And this is a show that, whether its popularity is waning or not, it's still watched, obviously. Like, it is still watched. And it would be helpful to like get some, additional information. But, like, I think my last thoughts on that, on this whole thing, is just kind of the realization that, like you mentioned, is women centric, and they have multiple generations of women that can appeal to multiple generations of fans, of female fans, right? Like, you have Kylie and Kendall that are in their 20s, and they never really share anything outside of Kendall sharing about her mental health issues. But there's more, right? That, like, for example, Kylie is a single mom with two little kids. She's also still young herself. Those are things that, like, could be very relatable, to discuss. Then you have like Khloe just left her 30s, and she definitely was desperate to leave her 30s. And then obviously Kim and Courtney that are in their 40s. So, like, different generations that I feel could provide like a different sort of entertainment value by elaborating a little bit more on some of these issues versus just kind of like skirting over them. And the fact that Khloe, I think, shared way more on Snapchat about her melanoma versus the show, that just seems weird. Because it's like, you would think it would be best to like share it on the show. But anyway, for whatever reason, she chose to share more about it on Snapchat.
Hmm.
That was a decision, I suppose. Okay, so the next part of the episode, Kim and Gypsy Rose Blanchard's conversation. So, Gypsy Rose appeared unexpectedly on this show after being released from prison. She met with Kim Kardashian to talk about working together on prison reform. Gypsy's visit stirred up a lot of interest and controversy because of her past. She became well known for being involved in a very serious crime where her boyfriend killed her mother. Despite her troubled history, Gypsy's meeting with Kim brought up important issues about her time in prison, like not getting therapy. Her appearance sparked a lot of discussion among viewers about whether she is a good advocate for prison reform or not. Kim, studying to become a lawyer, promised to help Gypsy by guiding her in her prison reform efforts. Gypsy wants to help others in prison and be a guide she wishes that she had had. Their conversation was emotional, with both of them connected over their shared goal of improving the prison system. What do we think about that interaction?
You know, when I found out that Gypsy Rose was going to be on the show, I'm like, excuse me? Like, who, why is she going to be on the show? I'm like, didn't she, help unalive her mom? And clearly we know, her story. Or for us that don't know, I mean, for the people that don't know, her mom suffered from, what was it, Munchausen's by proxy.
Munchausen by proxy, yeah.
So the girl went through a lot. So listening to her
Yeah.
story and kind of imagining the things that she went through, and being incarcerated at such a young age, and her upbringing, and how articulate she is, I was really surprised. See, you can't judge a book by its cover. I feel
Yeah.
bad for having the thoughts that I did. But I think she's just lived such a sad life, a
Yeah.
difficult life. And I think it really like broke my heart that she wanted therapy. She, maybe just an outlet to talk to someone, because, you go
Mhm.
to your mom or to some kind of parent to talk, but she clearly doesn't have that. So she wanted to have a
Yeah.
therapist in prison. She wasn't allowed to have, or they deemed her, you know, not suitable to have one. So I thought that that was hard to listen to, because our prison reform, and we're not going to talk about it because I'm not Kimberly Kardashian advocating for all these things, like prison reform. But, these places, in my opinion, should be like rehab centers. And we'll see that in episode 9. Um, and prisons aren't built like that, unfortunately. The sentencing is all out of whack. People can't get the resources that they need. A prison is just a money making institution. It's not there to rehabilitate her or rehabilitate people. So, we did a disservice as the United States or the institution to help her. But I am glad that she's trying to help other people. And, if you help just one person, I think that's enough.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, I think for a lot of us it was strange, like that they would have her on the show. Especially since I think earlier in the season they had like the Golden Bachelor on the show, and I was just kind of thinking like, why are all these random people appearing?
Yeah.
Is this like a ratings? Is it like for ratings or something? Like I don't
Yeah.
know. It was strange. Um, but their conversation, the Kim and Gypsy conversation, was very candid.
Hmm.
And I was surprised by how forthcoming Gypsy was,
Yeah.
um, and how willing she was to share, everything that she did. I think that, obviously without going into like prison reform or any of that stuff because we're not well versed in it, but I mean, obviously the expectation is once you do your time, you've paid for your crime.
Hmm.
But there's this stigma that follows people that have been to prison, right? Ex felons, they have difficulty finding jobs. And as she mentioned, I believe there's an issue with like doing a background check for her for I don't know if it was housing or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, so there's all of these different issues where it makes it easier for a person to end up in jail again. And that is obviously a failure of our judicial system. Um, but I'm glad that she wants to do something, that she wants to help. It is, obviously incredibly difficult to get out of the trauma because she clearly went through trauma, and it is unfortunate that she was not able to receive the help that she clearly needed. Hopefully she did start to receive it when she got out of prison. But yeah, I think it takes a lot for someone to really dedicate their time or any part of their lives towards doing something like that. Because not a lot of people would really care to be involved. Most people see someone in jail as a criminal for life instead of somebody that maybe, did something wrong and are paying the price for it, and maybe can come out better. Obviously, that's not the case for everybody, but just like, for example, Gypsy. whatever her part was in that situation. I mean, she was a victim herself. And I don't think that because of the fact that she's been in jail, the victim part of it gets like kind of erased. And that's not fair to her, right? Because that's part of why things happened the way that they did. So anyway, it was definitely a much more interesting segment um compared to what I thought it was going to be. I really wasn't sure what to expect, but I did not expect for it to actually, you know, be as good as it was. I was shocked, honestly. And it was interesting to see Kim in a sort of like a mentor role, because for years she's been doing prison reform and she's kind of always had people that she's kind of like, had as mentors and had kind of be there with her through things. And this was like kind of one of the first times noticing that it's now her by herself, trying to guide someone or really be a mentor to someone. So yeah, that was kind of an interesting to see, and it's a cool thing to see from her,
Mhm.
considering, all we know about her is all she wants to do is work and blah 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 and all the businesses. This to me is a much more like human side to
Yeah.
her that yeah, that I was really glad to see. Like I was surprised, but I was really glad to see that side of her. Okay, so the next part. Courtney faced a dilemma about whether to join her husband, Travis Barker, on tour with Blink 182. She was unsure if she should leave her newborn Rocky at home or take him on the tour. This sparked discussions within the family about balancing parenting and career. Courtney thought deeply about the practical and emotional aspects of traveling while trying to be present for her children. Kim also opened up about her journey towards becoming a more assertive parent. She discusses the complexities of raising her children in the public eye and the pressures that come with it. So, I mean, that's an interesting about face that we saw. What did we think about this?
Um, I'm not a real big fan of Courtney. Um,
We know. We know.
I don't know what to say about that. I'm gonna let it marinate. But as far as Kim, with this episode and the next episode, so guys, stay tuned. We see that she's reached out to a therapist, and basically, the therapist is regurgitating things that Courtney has told her, that Khloe has told her. It's that thing that our parents always say, basically our moms. You just got to hear it from somebody else, and then you get, a light bulb moment. So I am happy that Kim is going to provide this structure for her kids. It's ultimately going to make her life easier, you know? And I don't know what else. I'm actually glad that they're talking about parenting things because even though I'm not a parent, I hang out with my parents. A lot of our friends are parents, so we'll be parents one day. So it's just nice to see like other people's experiences and what's working, what's not. You think about, how are you going to raise kids? So just seeing how she's balancing these things is relatable to me because I'm a career woman. So I'm not as crazy as Kim, but uh, yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, as far as Courtney, I feel like it's strange, this sort of necessity for her to like be wherever Travis is. And I don't
Yeah,
know if I'm looking at it wrong, but it's kind of like
they're clingy.
yes, it feels very clingy. You have a newborn.
Hmm.
Why not stay home with your newborn? To even think about leaving him behind is wild to me. But like to then upend his little life, his little schedule, so that you can be, following your husband around on tour in Australia. Do you guys know how long it takes to get to Australia? A pretty long time. So you're putting a
Close.
newborn, it's oh, yeah, but how much closer? Let's really evaluate how much closer. My
Closer.
point is, they're flying commercial because we also learned that. So, a commercial flight with a newborn that is many hours long, you're disrupting, their whole schedule and everything because you're wanting to do this. And she's like, "Oh, this way I can be really present with my children, my other children, blah blah blah." And I'm just thinking, like, why can't you do that at home? Like, what is stopping you from doing that at home? Anyway, I didn't know how to feel about that. It was a little bit odd to me. I will say that Rain is hilarious. He is definitely his father's son. Like, he is Mini Scott for sure.
Yeah,
And I feel like Rain is speaking for the audience. Um, Whenever he was like telling his mom, like, "You guys making out again?
that's the
What
next
are y'all
episode.
doing?" Like, I really thought it was this one. Anyway, well, in the next one, Rain is pretty much all of us. So, I don't know. It's just strange for me, like, that she would kind of really just upend their lives for this. Like, he's gonna come back. I don't know. Anyway, and then as far as like Kim and her newfound restrictions for her children and everything, I find it very hypocritical of her that she has spent the entire season criticizing Khloe,
Yeah.
judging Khloe, and now she's doing exactly what they've all been telling her, including Khloe,
Mhm.
to do. I mean, I'm glad that she, is doing therapy. I recommend therapy for everybody. But it sucks that she clearly didn't listen to Courtney. She didn't listen to Khloe because they were all telling her the same thing. You just provide some sort of, structure and some sort of like boundaries and restrictions for your children. It's not the end of the world. Um, so I mean, I'm glad she's doing that, but it just feels very hypocritical. And I feel like that was what Chloe's face was saying the entire time. Like, really, really.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm good for her, but it was just weird to me. Like, I don't know.
As far as Courtney, I think she's overly clingy with him, but to each their own. That's their relationship. I think I was more so annoyed because you have the resources to do whatever you want. Like, why is this such a big thing? And I think, and we're going to get to this in the other episode, but I think like her primary reason for like connecting with her kids because they're away from the distractions and the friends, and it's like family time. Like, we're all forced to bond basically. So just her being like, I don't know if I should go, I shouldn't go. I'm like, girl, as we'll see in the next episode, spoiler, she takes a nanny. We don't even see Rain because I'm assuming there's no number two or a nurse or something like that. So it's not really like a problem. You have Travis is going, your kids can help, you have hired help. So I don't know. I was a little annoyed, but maybe it was a legitimate concern.
Yeah, sure. Let's give her the benefit of the doubt. All right. So the episode wraps up with Khloe mentioning that their brother Kardashian is coming over for a date. Um, so okay, Rob is coming over for a date with Khloe, right? This raised eyebrows, especially since Khloe and Rob have been accused of being too close in the past. Just a few episodes ago, Khloe was even joking about Rob possibly being the father of her child due to their uncanny resemblance. Their relationship continues to baffle fans. The next episode, obviously, was released today, and we'll do a recap on that right after this one. So, what do we think about Khloe and Rob? I didn't know that had sparked any kind of issues. By the way, I'm a little surprised by that.
We know Chloe is just awkward with some people. I think she's awkward with Rob and she's awkward with Scott. Like, they're just their level of inappropriateness. It's to new heights.
That's
I don't know
true.
why this sparked anything. If she was going on a date with her sisters, it wouldn't be a problem. or Malika or her friends.
Yeah.
I don't know what's the big deal. We see Dream all the time. I don't know what's the problem. They're siblings. I hope the Kardashians
Yeah.
don't go out of line. I mean, we've seen our share of craziness within the family, but I think this is like a line they won't cross. I'm not even going to say what it is, but guys,
Yeah.
chill out. There's nothing going on.
Yeah, this is not a Jamie and Cersei Lannister situation.
Why did you have to say it like
I really don't. Well, I'm not saying the word. I'm just, we have to bring up Game of Thrones everything, everywhere, all
this?
the time.
True, true.
Anyway, I don't really, I don't really think that there's like an issue with her saying she was having a date with her brother. Like, I feel like people putting any kind of weird connotation to it, they're the weird ones. Like, I don't. That's just odd. Anyway, so that basically wraps up episode 8, which I guess in and of itself was a very interesting show as far as what it gave us, but it could have given us a little bit more. The recap didn't really touch on Kris having the conversation with her besties about the hysterectomy. But she does. She, of course, does it in a very Kris Jenner fashion by taking them to, what was it, a Neiman Marcus or something like that, some kind of store. Um, I don't know what it was. I can't recall exactly, but Um, yeah, so she like was there sitting down talking to her friends, and I think we when we last tried to record this, you mentioned how it was really nice seeing, that sort of interaction, and to have for her to have that support system. I really like that, and I think, again, going back to how this is a very female centric show, the fact that there's so many different generations, it would be nice to maybe see a little bit more of that, to see a little bit more of like Kris Jenner and her friends, showing
Mhm.
us a different kind of side of things. It's not a Real Housewives thing, because they're not going to be all catty with each other. They're actually friends. So I don't know. I thought that would be something that would be nice for them to kind of like also show a little bit more of.
Yeah, ditto. Guys, that concludes today's episode. Leave in the comments what you thought about the episode. What do we think about Kris's hysterectomy? What do we think about Kim's newfound appreciation for Khloe's parenting and Courtney's parenting? Do you guys go to therapy? What do we think about traveling with a newborn for 24 hours? What else? What do we think about Gypsy Rose's story? Like, do you think she's a good candidate for advocating for prison reform? Do we think, she should stay in her lane? I don't know. We think a lot of thoughts here. But yeah, I think she'll be a good person to help out other people. But that concludes today's episode. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Also, please share our video. We're trying to grow our community so your friends could be our friends so we can all be friends. We also have social media, which they'll tell you.
We are on TikTok and Instagram at Hear Me Out DNE. So make sure you guys like, follow, share, and comment. You can also listen to the videos in podcast format via Spotify and YouTube Music.
All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.